Welcome to SVG-TV News for Tuesday, July 14th, 2020. I am Rochelle Batiste with the details. Vendors plying their trade opposite Massey store, Annisville, were served with notice last Thursday to vacate the premises within 7 days with no alternative location to continue their operation. Lawyer Kay Bacchus-Batiste has stepped in to represent the vendors, and she is claiming there is political motive to have the vendors move. Bacchus-Batiste said she has lodged an appeal to the Physical Planning and Development Board on behalf of 5 of the vendors in the area based on 6 grounds for the enforcement order.
No enforcement notice was served upon, well, this one is for Festina Franklin, one of the persons I represent, and the same thing is repeated in all the appeals. 2, even if a notice was served on the 23rd of February 2018 as wrongfully stated, it is illegal and void and of no effect, not being served within a period of 5 years as mandated by the law. 3, the notice letter which was served in accordance in accordance with any specified provision of the relevant act. 4, the letter must be withdrawn. 5, the letter served on the 9th of July 2020 is discriminatory and motivated by political malice and spite and contravenes the Constitution of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. 5, the board is put to strict proof of service of the alleged enforcement order according to law.
Bacchus-Batiste said that the Physical Planning and Development Board claimed to have given all of the vendors in the area an enforcement order, which she said is not the case, noting that no reason was also given why the vendors had to leave.
Act itself says that you must consider economic circumstances when you're trying to remove people like that, or when you're determining how you're going to interpret the Town and Country Planning Act. And if there's any other reason why this should not happen is the current economic circumstances we are in, which is that it is COVID time, right? Hundreds of jobs have been lost in St. Vincent. Not a single one of my clients said that they discuss anything about relocation with them. Because if they want to discourse, we will be willing to do that. But you cannot tell me that you want to give them 3 days to move or 7 days to move. No discussion of relocation. Also, the Physical Planning and Development Board will not be responsible for any damages incurred. They are telling these hard-working young Vincentians, if they don't move in 7 days, they will come and remove them and not be responsible for any damages.
The opposition senator said she is convinced that one of the vendors, Romal John, is being targeted due to his political affiliations with the NDP.
Do not say this lightly. Romal is a young man who is very enterprising, and he has mounted my platform, as I said, the village meetings from since January, and every village meeting I have had, he has addressed the crowd. I do not say this lightly because when the first time he mounted the platform, within days, the police was at his home. They arrested him. They took him into the Calico police station. They claimed that he owed a debt. I dealt with the situation and he was released. Shortly after that, his brother was arrested. And for some complaint of, I think it had to do with theft or something, but it was so bogus. I got involved again. The police had to release it. Even his mother had a problem getting her job, which was promised. All of this has been building up. I said nothing to the public. If they want to remove Romal and the other vendors from there, why not do it legally?
Speaking on the matter on radio last Sunday, Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves hinted at looking for alternative space to accommodate the Annisville vendors, citing sanitation, health and security as reasons for their removal. It feels like deja vu all over again. That's according to the NDP's caretaker for Central Leeward, Benjamin Exeter, who was referring to a recent incident during the registration process in the constituency at the Barley Government School. Exeter was one of the two NDP candidates who contended that the conduct of the polls and the subsequent election results for the December 9, 2015 elections were not in accordance with the law. The ongoing election petitions are yet to be resolved after they filed an appeal to the last ruling. Speaking on the NDP's Monday Night Live Facebook program, Exeter said that since the experience of the last elections in 2015, he has been monitoring the registration process in his constituency until last Wednesday. He was told by the registering officer he was not allowed to be there.
He proceeded to make 2 telephone calls. I don't know who he called, but well, if you look at the video which I posted, he was pretty antsy. You know, it's pretty jittery, and
did he seem uncomfortable?
Very uncomfortable and sweating, sweating buckets. Right? This is no joke. And so he proceeded to make 2 calls, and then he received a call subsequently later, and he said to me, "That's it. We're stopping the process." So I turned to him and I said, "Listen, you can't stop the process. If you do, I'm going to document this for 2 reasons. One, you're breaking the law where people here to register, you cannot disenfranchise them from not registering. Right. And 2, you've been paid to do a job, and just do the job. So you cannot get paid for do a job and not doing the job. So I'll record you after the fact." And that's what I told him.
Exeter said that he then went outside to clarify with his lawyers if he was breaking any law by sitting in the registration process. He said after he was told that he wasn't in breach of the law as an observer, he refused to leave, which made the registering officer decided to shut off the process.
Of my lawyers, our lawyers, and I asked for clarification because I didn't want to be impeding or interfering the process in any way. I want to make sure, you know, I was obeying the rule of law, and I was guided by counsel. Listen, you're not breaking any law. You have every right to be there. I mean, anyone has a right to be there, and you would think, if it's free and fair process, an open process, you would welcome anybody to be there. Yeah. People are trending on internet saying, in terms of, if you have nothing to hide, then why not have an open and transparent process? But he went one step further and said, nope, I'm shutting it down and I'm out of here. That's when I started recording. It was mixed. Some people felt as though that I was interfering with the process,
but you had a right to be there.
I had a right to be there, and some other people also said, no, Mr. Exeter had a right to be there. And I said, wait a second, it's not only my right, it's also your right, because if it's a fair and transparent process, why can't anybody go through the exercise? Right.
Exeter said that he and his lawyers were confronted yesterday by the Supervisor of Elections while observing another registration exercise in the Central Leeward constituency at the Layu Government School. He said they were told he will not be allowed to sit in the registration room.
Listen, she was there. Not only she was there, she was right in front of the door, the entranceway going in, trying to bar me from coming inside. When I first got there, I didn't recognize her. I saw a lady standing there, or sitting at the table, and I just basically said, "Excuse me," and she said, "Are you here to register?" I said, "No, I'm here to observe," and I proceeded to walk in through the premises, and then she identified herself. And then my 2 lawyers were there, and of course they said, "Ben, hold on," and they asked Ms. James for a couple of questions, and I interjected and asked Ms. James, "What is preventing me from being in this location today?" She said, "Well, the law doesn't permit it." So I asked her, "Which law are you referencing that doesn't permit me to be here, or anyone else for that matter? Not only me,
right? Anyone
else, maybe somebody from the other side, or John Public or Jane Public to be in there."
And her response was?
I've yet to get a response from her.
Lawyer K. Bacchus-Batiste said that the registration exercise is not a secret and persons should be allowed to observe the process. She said that the representation of the People's Act is clear when it comes to registration procedures.
There is nothing in the representation of the People's Act which gives the supervisor of election the authority to conduct registration procedures in secret. Or, let's use her word, in privacy. This is something that concerns every citizen of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. We are interested in free and fair elections for all. And unmistakably, one of the ways in which you can affect the vote and affect free and fair elections is to have people register in a constituency that they're not qualified to register in. Be it the reason that they are below the age, and that happened last election. They had persons registering who were not yet 18. Be it that they are not living in the constituency. That also happened.
Bacchus Batiste said the supervisor of election has written to the leader of the opposition lodging a formal complaint against Exeter and what is expected of him. Bacchus Batiste, however, maintains Exeter did nothing wrong and was not disruptive to the registration process, as was claimed in the letter.
There's no law preventing him, because we have done that for many, many years, observing the process, because this is supposed to be free, open and transparent. We decided, he asked me yesterday to accompany him because there was a letter was received by the president of the party where the supervisor of election claims that Ben was disruptive and that that courtesies were extended to him, which they're no longer going to extend, words to that effect. And it implied that the safety of maybe the registration officer would have been threatened if he is there, with absolutely no ground to support that. And we were told clearly that measures would be implemented. They said that, well, she's not going to allow us to come in because it's a courtesy they extend. I said, you are not extending any courtesy. It is our right, and we're not leaving. We're going to stay and observe. Well, a lovely conversation ensued with us and the gracious lady, the supervisor of election. I think she came around to see our point of view, though she didn't actually say it.
And the election supervisor, Dora James, told SVG-TV News via a telephone interview that they have not stopped anyone from observing the registration process. James said registration officers are, however, considerate to some persons who wish to be private in giving their information during the registration process.
Observation is a normal process when we are doing registration, when what the electoral office ensures is that the registrant, when they're going through their process, have their privacy to give information. We want to make sure that they're comfortable and they give the information. There's nothing to hide.
The election supervisor said she does not have much to say about the Exeter incident in Central Leeward except that it was unfortunate. She said that they welcome persons who want to observe the registration process as it helps to ensure transparency, which is what they are striving for.
People are there, they see what takes place, they would know. And we benefit from people observing, because as they observe, if you find that persons are if they do not belong to the constituency, persons would express their dissatisfaction. People would call the office, people would write the office, so we benefit from observation. What we find is that we must make sure that when registrants come to register, they must have their space.
In other news, security of the safety net, adequacy of benefits, financial sustainability and equity are some of the reasons why changes were made in 2014 to the pension system. So says Director of the National Insurance Services NIS Stuart Haynes while discussing the topic of pension reform on NBC Radio this morning. The NIS Director said the changes were necessary to ensure future generations do not bear any unnecessary burden.
Stands for adequacy of benefit. We want to make sure that the benefit we provide is adequate. In the reform year 2014, we also increase pensions, and that is an element of the reform. So we want to make sure the benefit is relevant. The F is financial sustainability. We want to be able to meet our obligation in time and in full when they fall due. And the E is for equity, equity among generation. That one is called intergenerational risk. If we don't change the pension system in time, then the burden will fall on the future generation. For instance, I look at myself. I'm currently a contributor. My mother is a pensioner, and my daughter is in grade 3. If we don't make timely reform, then the burden will be felt on my daughter. So we have to make sure we make timely reform to create equity or share the burden between different generations. Those are the principal reasons for reform.
The pensionable age is one issue of concern among public servants, and Haynes highlighted why it has changed from 60 to 65.
Excellent. Very good question, because I think one of the most topical issue is the pensionable age. That's one of the parameters that we had changed in 2014. And we changed it to move from 60, because at the time of the reform, that was the lowest retirement age in the region. And also when we look at the demographic developments, we see that persons are living longer, and we call it increase in life expectancy. And at the same time that is happening, there is a decline in fertility, meaning the number of live births per woman is declining. Also, we suffered migration among the working population. So that caused a need for change in the pensionable age. And we changed the pensionable age from 60 to 65, but on a phase basis.
The change of the pensionable age is being done in gradual phases, and Haynes explained what will take place if one takes his or her pension payout early.
From 60 to 65 in a gradual manner. As we speak now in 2020, the pensionable age is 62.
That will be up until 2021.
That will be up until 2021. It started from 2019 to 2021. The pensionable age will be 62. The issue arises because mainly among the civil servants, because government is the largest employer. And the change in pensionable age therefore means persons who retire at 60 may have to wait, for instance, till 62 to receive their full pension. However, one can opt to receive their pension at age 60. If your pensionable age is 62 and you decided to take your pension at 60, then the pension will reduce by 12%. Look, because you take a pension 2 years before your pensionable age, and it's reduced by 6% per year. So you would receive a reduced pension by 12%.
The kindness of the Cuban people is a true act of internationalist solidarity, and Minister of Health, Wellness and the Environment, Luke Brown, thanked the Cuban Brigade for their work in helping SVG in its fight against the COVID-19 pandemic. His words of appreciation came during a cocktail reception held at the Prime Minister's residence last evening to bid farewell to 12 Cuban nurses who came as part of a Cuban brigade in late March to assist with the local response to COVID-19. Minister Brown said the sacrifices made by the Cuban nurses will not be forgotten.
Also to the world. And you didn't come here because COVID-19 was a problem in St. Vincent and the Grenadines and was not so much of a problem in Cuba. But you came despite the fact that you had your own issues in Cuba with this disease. And you came to St. Vincent and the Grenadines, but you didn't only come here. You've helped so many other countries in the Caribbean, so many other countries in the world, and the world owes you a debt of gratitude. That's why there is a call for Cuba, in recognition of all that it has done for humanity, to be awarded a Nobel Peace Prize. I'd just like to thank you on behalf of the Ministry of Health, Wellness and the Environment and the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines for what you have done for us, and we will always remember it. We will always remember you, and please take St. Vincent and the Grenadines in your hearts back to Cuba. Thank you.
Also expressing thanks for the assistance provided by the Cuban doctors and nurses was Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves. He said the assistance from the Cubans is far-reaching and highlighted what further assistance they will be provided to SVG in its ongoing fight against COVID-19.
To help us in our fight against this pandemic. But you came to give us support, and just in case things got out of hand, you would have been here to preserve our lives and the well-being of our country. And I want to say thank you very much. I want to say how happy I am that the Cuban government has decided to leave 4 of the brigade medical practitioners with particular specialities for us, and that on Friday we will be receiving 4 laboratory technicians to help us with the process of the PCR tests, as the demand is ramped up because more persons are coming in from overseas, especially our own nationals who have to return home. And I want to thank you very much.
PM Gonsalves said SVG will continue to stand in solidarity with the people of Cuba well into the future.
We have particular senators who are more interested in the politics of South Florida than in principle, seeking to damn Cuba and the medical brigade on the floor of the U.S. Senate. St. Vincent and the Grenadines and CARICOM, we stand steadfast with our Cuban brothers and sisters in this regard, and St. Vincent and the Grenadines is at the forefront. We are small, but we are courageous, and we will not allow anyone to bully us or frighten us and to deter us from our solidarity with our Cuban brothers and sisters in this angelic act of helping to heal humanity.
The Public Relations and Complaints Office of the RSVG Police Force is the recipient of 3 new office chairs courtesy the Caribbean Federation of Police Welfare Associations, the CFPWA. The donation was made at the Central Police Station by the Federation's General Secretary, Constable Devon Butte, a Vincentian 3rd-year law student pursuing studies at the University of the West Indies, Cave Hill campus. The chairs were received by Commissioner of Police Colin John. In expressing thanks to the CFPWA on behalf of the RSVG Police Force, Commissioner John stated that the chairs will be used to host the Care, Serve, Protect program, which is scheduled to be launched on Thursday, July 16, 2020. A news release from the police said the Care, Serve, Protect program is an interactive program which will be streamed live via the police Facebook page from 8 p.m. every Thursday. The news release said the objective of the program is to continue to build and foster closer relationship with members of the public through interaction, innovation, and feedback while forging new relationships and maintaining long-lasting partnerships. They say the program also seeks to create an avenue where members of the public are updated of pertinent information as it relates to crimes advisories and various police activities taking place throughout the country. Persons viewing the program can interact with the host and guests by live Facebook messaging or sending questions, comments, or concerns via WhatsApp.